everyone, and welcome to AMC Movie Talk for movie fans. I'm Crystal Kennedy, and this is a show that brings us the day's biggest movie news, and of course, we give you insight into what it all means. Joining us, as always, is AMC Movie News Senior Editor, Mr. John Campea.
Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the show today and our new digs here at the Stream Studios in Hollywood, California. And a special welcome to those of you who are watching us live. Listen, jump in the chat board, talk amongst each other, share your thoughts on all the things that are going on. But we do ask something. We are going to take a couple of questions from the chat board at the end of the show, but please do me a favor. Don't write in your questions now until near the end of the show. I will let you know when it's cool to start firing your questions into the chat board, because Crystal is just going to ignore the questions you ask between now and then anyway, so don't bother. Well, we will get to them at the end of the show.
We also have joining us AMC Movie News Production Manager, Mr. Dennis Then.
Hey guys, I want to apologize for yesterday's spoilers about Gravity, you know. Apparently, someone didn't know that it was in space.
Yeah, it was a big reveal.
So, yeah.
We also have AMC Movie News Editor, Miss Amy Rose Eisenbach.
Hey guys, how dare you, Dennis? What were you thinking?
I know, we weren't thinking. That was the problem, we weren't thinking.
I really thought Gravity was in a mall. No? Not so much? All right.
Bummer.
Well, in a recent interview, Jet Lucas, son of Star Wars creator George Lucas, revealed that George had actually begun work on a Star Wars trilogy a year before Disney acquired Lucasfilm from him in the blockbuster deal. When asked what he thinks will happen in the new Star Wars film, Jet replied, "I already know what's going to happen. I'm happy with what's going to happen." Jet then revealed that George and J.J. Abrams have been in constant communication about the new film. John, what do you think about what Jet Lucas had to say?
Well, I think what he had to say was pretty funny in some ways when the interviewer asked him, "So what do you think is going to happen in the new movies?" I already know what's going to happen in the new movies. Have you seen my last name? I mean, I think that would have been the appropriate response. But the thing that I really, really like about this is this kind of confirms something I had heard before. And I had heard previously from a source of mine that I never ran with because I didn't know if it was true or not, that one of the things that attracted Disney to buying Lucasfilm was that they liked where George was going with Star Wars. And I didn't know what they meant by that at the time. I didn't know if they meant, oh, they liked the garbage prequels? What? So I didn't know what they meant by that. But now Jet's saying that he was actually working on a new trilogy a year before they even bought it. Now I'm starting to wonder if that's what they meant, that they liked where George was going. If that's true, that's encouraging. But the other thing that I'm really encouraged by what he said was saying that him and J.J. Abrams, George Lucas and J.J. Abrams, are constantly in contact with each other talking about Star Wars Episode VII. And I love this, and here's why. While I cannot get away from my undying, pure disgust and hatred with the prequel Star Wars films, while that being said, I've always maintained, though, if you take a one-page synopsis of the three prequel films, right? One page for Phantom Menace, then one page for each of the other two films, and just read a one-page synopsis, it reads pretty cool. It's actually pretty brilliant when you just think about the synopsis of the film. I still believe George Lucas is a master at creating these worlds where you can tell these great stories in. I just think maybe he lost a little connection with actually going in and fleshing them out and then telling the stories. So now you get a guy like J.J. Abrams taking some overall world tips from George Lucas. And Abrams is the guy who's going to flesh out that story and tell the story in this world that Lucas is kind of the architect of. I think that's fabulous. I think that's great. As a Star Wars, I'm actually getting goosebumps. You can't see them. I'm getting goosebumps thinking about that idea. I've always wanted George Lucas to still be the architect of this world. And it kind of sounds like maybe he is. I hope so. Amy Rose, what do you think about what Jet had to say?
First of all, Jet, I was really hoping you'd give us a little bit of a glimpse. Of course you're not going to, but I was just hoping. That was very cryptic. I know it's happening. It's great. Well, thanks. I'm so proud for you. I mean, George Lucas is who brought us this amazing world, this galaxy far, far away. And he's amazing at it. I don't want him to direct, as we've obviously said. But, you know, I definitely want him to be involved. And I love JJ's vision of just, you know, how sacred this property is. And not to mention, with Michael Arndt penning the script, I have a lot of faith in that as well. Toy Story 3, Little Miss Sunshine. I mean, he's incredible. And one thing I love about this is that, opposed to being the prequels where they have to go in a certain direction to catch up to the Star Wars we know, this is pretty much free range, which I love. Because it's, you know, however they want to continue the stories and reconnect us with these characters we love so much and introduce other characters, and I just couldn't be more excited. And yes, I want George involved, just not at the helm, basically.
Dennis?
Yeah, you and me have talked about the prequels before, and we talked about how the actual story is good. It's just the movies.
The execution wasn't so
yeah.
good.
Not so
I
good.
think a lot of people get confused between what a good story is and what good storytelling is. And so George Lucas had a good story, he just didn't execute on the storytelling part. His job as the director. You know, storytelling involves the directing, the acting, the camera shots, the editing, like all the things put together. And George Lucas hasn't really done that well for a long time.
No.
But you have J.J. Abrams, on the other hand, who actually is a good storyteller, despite what you think about his movies and Star Trek. Star Trek, he didn't write Star Trek, you know,
Right.
in Star Trek Into Darkness. I thought both of them were fun. The scripts weren't the best, you know,
No.
but his storytelling, I felt, fit what that was. And so this combination of George Lucas's story and J.J. Abrams' storytelling as a director, I think is a great fit.
I remember a friend of mine asked me, how do you think Jet and his sister feel about, George selling off Star Wars? I mean, that's kind of... Did you see how much he sold it for? You know who's getting that money? Don't feel bad for them. They're going to do just fine. Don't worry about it. All right, what's next?
So I have to apologize to everybody because there were some technical difficulties with the show, and you guys got some behind the scenes at the beginning of our show and then got our little error message for a little bit. But you guys should all be getting us up live now. So thank you for telling me on the chat board because I wouldn't have known. There's been a major development on the He-Man and the Masters of the Universe movie that had been in development, and for fans, it's not good news. For some time, it looked like a new feature film version of He-Man could announce a production date at any time with a script already in place, and G.I. Joe 2 director Jon Chu set to direct for some time. However, reports have come out today that Chu is no longer attached to the film, and that screenwriter Terry Rossio has been brought in to rewrite the script. Rossio has writing credits on such films as Aladdin, Shrek, the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, the National Treasure movies, and most recently, The Lone Ranger. John, how should people looking forward to a new Masters of the Universe feel about this news?
It really depends on what your feelings were about Jon Chu directing the films in the first place. I am not a big fan of G.I. Joe Retaliation. I think there were certainly some cool things about it. I liked the addition of The Rock to it. I'm always okay with The Rock being added to something. But I wasn't thrilled with the job he did with that. But I mean, even still, I was curious to see what you would do with something like a Masters of the Universe. And come on, we've been waiting for so long. And I've often say, look, just because there was a popular cartoon show in the 80s doesn't mean it's something that's going to work today, blah, blah, blah. But Masters of the Universe, I believe, is one of those that can work. It's extremely popular. It has a huge audience. There's still a big nostalgia factor. And I think it's something that could work today. So it's all just a matter of whether or not they can pull this thing together. Look, is it disappointing now that it looks like we're not going to be getting it? Because now they've lost the director, they're getting in a new screenwriter, yes. But at the same time, it's like a World War Z situation, right? I mean, maybe this is one of those situations where we would rather have the studio say, we're not happy with this, let's put the brakes on it, and then let's start again with a new writer. Amy Rose?
Yeah, I actually thought G.I. Joe Retaliation was fun. I did. I thought that, while maybe he didn't do everything I would have liked with the characters, I still thought it was a fun ride. The way he shot it, it was very action heavy. The characters were fun, and I thought it was a good time. Was it a masterpiece? No, but I don't expect a masterpiece going into G.I. Joe. So I am a little disappointed. Everything I read about his vision seemed like he was really going to keep this world grounded. I mean, he was saying that they already developed, some initial phases, and just like they were really excited about it. And I feel like he was really taking this property seriously, and it was clear that he was a big fan, much like G.I. Joe. I mean, he was talking about all the amazing, images and characters that he got to bring to life, and you could just feel his passion, and I felt the same way with He-Man and Masters of the Universe. But, I'm not that surprised as well, and rewrites happen all the time, and he has some good epic adventures under his belt, the screenwriter, so I'm not too worried about it, and I think it's gonna be a while before this gets off the ground.
Probably gonna be a while, Dennis.
Yeah, I also enjoyed G.I. Joe too. It's I think the only movie I've seen John Chu direct, and I thought it was fun.
You didn't see the Justin Bieber documentary?
No, I didn't.
I
Actually,
heard it was actually solid, and I didn't see it.
I was at the midnight screening.
Okay.
You guys.
but no, this doesn't bode well for the He-Man movie. If you have a semi-known director leaving the project, and we don't have like any stars attached to it. The franchise is a bit older. I mean, it is well known, but I don't know. I have a feeling like either it's going to be delayed a long time or it's never going to get made.
I think long time.
I think the clock is ticking too, because while I say, hey, this is one of those franchises you can do, this is one of those franchises you can build something around, the clock is ticking. Those of us who remember Masters of the Universe fondly, we're getting older. there's a whole new movie going on. He's coming up. They've never watched a single He-Man episode, so I hope they get this thing rolling and get it rolling soon.
How do you think Dolph feels if he's still going to make a cameo?
Oh, Dolph. All right, folks, listen, we've reached the part of the show for mailbag. Here's how this is going to work. Now, if you've got a topic or a question you would like us to address on the air, you can email us anytime at amcmovietalk@gmail.com. Every single day we take a couple questions out of the mailbag. We're going to do a few extra ones today, so Chrisley's got a few of them pulled out. Chrisley, what do we got?
Ashley Jenkins writes, Hey guys and girls, this is Ashley writing you from sunny California. I was just wondering, do you think that a remake of the movie Red Sonja will ever be made? And if so, when do you think it might be relished? And who do you think will play Red Sonja? I personally would love for Rose McGowan to play Red Sonja because I really think she's a great actress and would really do well in this particular role.
Well, I mean, ironically, maybe you already knew this or maybe you didn't, but there was a period of time when Rose McGowan was going to be Red Sonja. I mean, she was dating director Robert Rodriguez, and he wanted to develop a picture with her as Red Sonja. They even made a poster. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
They made a poster.
There's a couple posters.
Yeah, they made a couple as Red Sonja, right, to put out at Comic-Con to kind of get buzz going about it. Then, ironically enough, shortly after their relationship ended, all talk about a Red Sonja kind of ended. I don't think
It's weird.
I'm not saying one had anything to do with the other. It probably didn't. It probably didn't have anything to do with it.
It probably did.
But there are a couple of reasons why I don't think this is probably going to happen. Now, I think eventually we might see a Red Sonja again, especially if the next Conan film, which we know is on the way, if the next Conan film coming down the pipe is a big success and it works, you can bet there's going to be renewed talks about a Red Sonja remake. However, if the next Conan movie pulls a, what was the name of the last Schwarzenegger film?
The Last Stand.
The Last Stand. If it pulls The Last Stand and bombs, then you can pretty much guarantee we're never going to see a Red Sonja remake. But I do know this and I really believe in this. Either way, we're not going to see Rose McGowan as Red Sonja. I had the opportunity to spend a little bit of time with her recently, and you'd be shocked standing with her in person how truly little she is.
Yeah.
She is a petite, she is no Bridget Nielsen. Now, if you remember Bridget, who played Red Sonja before, she is a formidable woman. Like a big, intimidating woman. That's Red Sonja. This petite little girl with her big sword, I don't buy it. I just don't see it. That's not a barbarian princess to me. So I just don't see her as that at all. Dennis, what do you think?
Yeah, I highly doubt that a Red Sonja movie is going to get made. I don't know how well the Conan movie is going to do when it comes out. I mean,
Hopefully great.
If it does well, then okay, but I don't know. And Rose McGowan, yeah, no way. I mean, not only that, she's not as well known as she was. You know, she had come off, I think, what was that, Charmed show or something,
Yep.
And then she, did Planet Terror with Robert Rodriguez. So she was kind of well known then. It's been a while since we've even seen her in
Well,
anything.
she was just in the remake of Conan the Barbarian too, remember?
Oh, that's right.
As the witch.
Yeah.
She looked really cool in that, by the way. I thought she looked really cool.
She was creepy.
Yeah, I tried to erase that movie from my memory.
Come on. I really like Rose McGowan. I feel like she hasn't really been as steady in industry since she had all that facial reconstruction from her car accident.
Yeah.
I feel like, and which was really sad, obviously, but I'm glad she was okay. And she is a really great actress. I think she has a very distinctive energy about her on set. And I loved her as Cherry Darling in Planet Terror. I thought she was a badass with the gun leg. Are you kidding me? That was pretty epic. So I do think she can be pretty, badass. But I also kind of agree. It's just like my Wonder Woman. I wouldn't want her to be a puny little lady either, She's got to be a force to be reckoned with. And as much as I love her, I don't really see But since Conan, the sequel is coming, wouldn't it be funny if they introduce an older Red Sonja as well to coincide with the older Conan, since that's how she originally was introduced in the comic? I think that'd be kind of funny.
All right, what's next?
Derek Brownie writes, recently you answered a question about a superhero we haven't seen in a film yet. And personally, I had my fingers crossed that we'd finally see Jubilee in X-Men Days of Future Past with all of the other characters announced. Do you ever think we'll see Jubilee on screen, maybe in a reboot?
No. No.
Kill those dreams.
And quite frankly, for me personally, look, who you love as a comic book character is as subjective as movies itself. So if you love Jubilee, that's awesome, that's great. Just for me personally, since you're asking me, I really don't care for the Jubilee character. But I do want to mention that we have seen Jubilee in an X-Men film already. Jubilee was in the original X-Men. She was played by an actress named Katrina Flores. I think that's how you pronounce her name. She had the yellow jacket on and the whole bit.
Better.
I think she might have even had one line. I can't remember exactly. She might have even had one line. So we've seen Jubilee. Now, I know that's not what you're wanting. You want a full-blown Jubilee character. I don't think we're going to see her in X-Men Days of Future Past. I don't think we're going to see her in any X-Men movie, to be honest. Maybe if they reboot the franchise, they'll have a side, but frankly, Jubilee's a character that doesn't interest me all that much. I think there's some other cooler characters at the school, at Charles's school, that I would rather see, but that's just me, Dennis.
Yeah, Jubilee, she was okay in the comic books. I found her quite to be annoying in the cartoon. I don't know if you saw the cartoon.
Oh,
she was really annoying. And also, the role that she fits in the comic book is like she was like Wolverine's like little sidekick, little Robin. Yeah. But in the first X-Men movie, you had Rogue kind of fill that spot. Yes, she was younger and she was the sidekick. So no, I don't think there's really a purpose for her.
Yeah, I really like the character Jubilee. You nailed it. Not in the animated series. She was obnoxious. But, her story is really cool. I mean, her parents were both murdered, has that kind of Batman complex, discovers her powers. Speaking of mall rats, like you mentioned in the beginning, she was hiding out in there. And I think she is a really cool character. But I'd rather see Bishop and Cable and so many other great characters, Deadpool, done right, introduced first the right way. But Jubilee she's a cool chick, but I hopefully think the other ensemble that we have going on is going to hold it down for the ladies.
All right, what's next?
Karsten Sundergaard writes, I was watching what to me is a classic, Rounders, with Matt Damon, Edward Norton, John Malkovich, John Turturro, and Martin Landau, and I seem to remember a buzz about them doing a sequel to that. When it first came out, poker wasn't really that big, and it didn't do that well, but now poker is everywhere, so wouldn't it be cool for a Rounders 2 with the same cast, or at least some of them? What do you guys think? Cheers for the awesome show.
I am a huge poker fan. I play in the World Series of Poker every year. I have a good time. I've even cashed at it. And Rounders is one of those films that is just, if you're a poker fan, Rounders is a very, very, even if you don't play poker, Rounders is a really cool movie. Now, whenever we're at home, me and Ann, and we're flipping, if I watch poker for a bit and Johnny Chan comes on, inevitably both of us will say at the same time, Johnny effing Chan, and because it's Johnny Chan. But here's the interesting thing. There kind of already was a Rounders 2 in some ways. It was called Runner Runner, and it's in theaters right now, because if I'm not mistaken, I believe it was written by the same guy. Actually did it. But getting back to Rounders, could we actually see a proper sequel to Rounders? I don't think so, because like you pointed out, it wasn't that popular to the general movie-going audience, really. It's been a long time since it's been out, so doing a sequel would really not make a lot of sense, I don't think. It would be kind of interesting to see, okay, where do these characters end up 15 years later? That's kind of cool, but since most people don't have a background with the original film, as much as I would like to see it and you would like to see it, I really don't think it's feasible. Amy Rose, would you think there was a chance for a Rounders 2, or would you even be interested in a Rounders 2?
I just think too much time has gone by, and I did really like the film, and I love poker, but beyond that, I thought we saw some really great performances. I mean, Edward Norton, that was exactly pretty much the height of his career, coming off of, Fight Club, Primal Fear, and Rounders. He was great as Worm in that film. And great. I thought John Malkovich as the evil, Russian, whatever he was trying to be, was
Don't
great.
Splash the pot.
Yes. I thought it was a great film, but I just, I'm a firm believer in if you want to see these characters again and continuing the storyline, and I just don't think it's needed. What are they going to do, get him out of jail again and enter a tournament, and I just don't really think it's needed. Would I like to see this team back together? Sure, but I loved the first one. I don't really think a sequel is needed, and I think too much time has gone by.
Dennis?
Yeah, I loved the first movie. I saw it in the theaters, and then when it came out on VHS. There used to be this thing called VHS in a little box.
What's that?
You put it in. It's all square. But anyways, so in college, me and my friends would watch that movie all the time. And you're right, it wasn't that big, but it actually helped the poker boom. It came out and people started to become interested in poker, especially when it came out on VHS and DVD, because it became kind of like a cult hit in a way, because people started reciting lines from it and everything. And so I really like the movie. I don't think a sequel is necessary, like Amy Rose said. But I wouldn't mind seeing one.
There was a poker pro, a couple of them actually, I heard talking, and they said there are two things that really helped pave the way for poker going mainstream. One was Chris Moneymaker winning the World Series of Poker. The second was the movie Rounders.
Crazy.
All right, what do we got next?
Mark Cordvani writes, in a recent interview, Terry Crews has stated he would love to play a superhero, specifically The Thing or Colossus. He went on to say how Hollywood needs more black superheroes. Regarding Terry Crews, I think he would make a good Thing. He would bring a much-needed comedic presence to the character. Furthermore, with Michael B. Jordan possibly playing the Human Torch, you have these two characters actually be brothers, and not figuratively, because the Fantastic Four are supposed to be a family. What are your thoughts on more black superheroes, and specifically Terry Crews?
Well, I mean, there's two separate issues there where you're talking about. Let's address the first one is like, do we need more black superheroes? Yes, we need more black superheroes. We need more, just in general, we need more non-white superheroes because they're all white. I can relate with that. Yay, white superheroes. But we need more non-white superheroes. And look, everybody knows I have no problem at all with changing race of a character if the race isn't a key essential element. Don't make Black Panther a Japanese guy, because that is him, him being his race is kind of a key essential element to who he is. But, I was totally cool with him. I loved Michael Clark Duncan as Kingpin. They changed him to a black hair. I'm totally cool with that. But I don't think the answer in getting more black superheroes is necessarily just taking existing superheroes and changing the race, although I think there are superheroes you can do that with, and I think it would be fine. I think it needs to start on the comic book level, and I think the comic books need to start giving us more black superheroes, and then have the movie world pick them up and run with it. Now, let's get to the second part of your question about Terry Crews. I adore Terry Crews. He is like the #1 most impossible guy in the world to not fall in love with. Like develop a serious man crush on when you're around him. The dude is just that engaging, he's that funny, and he's that awesome. I do not want him as a Thing. Because part of the thing that makes Terry Crews so great, I think, is what also makes him not a great fit for the Thing. That's just my personal belief on it. Super talented guy, just an issue of fit. I don't see that as a fit. The other thing is this. You brought up, hey, what about having, Johnny Storm and the Thing being actual brothers? No. That is against the core essential elements of these characters. Sue and Johnny are brother and sister. Reed is the brilliant scientist. Thing is his lifelong, completely faithful friend. That's the way that family works. Johnny Storm and the Thing aren't brothers. Don't change that core essential element. That's just the way I see it personally. Dennis, what do you think?
Yeah, I think they definitely need to have more black superheroes and minority superheroes in general.
Yeah.
But I agree that comic books is a good way to start, but they do need to fill the void of the ones that are, more well known in terms of like the Black Panther or Luke Cage and stuff like that.
Where are they?
As far as Terry Crews, I also think he's very charismatic. He's a really fun guy. I don't see him as a fit for any of the superheroes, to be honest. I'm thinking more of an Idris Elba, Michael B. Jordan, a Chiwetel Ejiofor.
Yeah,
he's amazing.
Like those actors. Terry Crews, he would just take me out of it, I think. Like, it'd just be, because superheroes, you already have to kind of suspend your disbelief, your belief first for the whole movie. And having him in one of those roles, it's a little hard to do that.
I could just see him now if he was some superhero ripping his shirt off and then doing that. What's that soap commercial he did? Or no, the
Old Spice.
Old Spice we're showing, and popping his special, power, and then going to do something. Amy Rose, what about you? What do you think about Terry Crews as a superhero?
First of all, Terry Crews, you nailed that. How can you not love this man?
He's awesome.
He's so adorable and charming and just likable. And I interviewed him for Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs too, right? And he was talking about, because when you're doing animated films, it's you in the booth. Like, you have to make these characters come alive. It's pretty crazy. movie, and you have to have a lot of energy. And he was actually telling me that they needed him to tone it down because he only operates on 2 speeds, up here or sleeping. So I love him. I love his energy, but I don't want the thing to be overly comical. I don't. I mean, regardless of what people thought about Michael Chiklis's version, like, I thought part of the reason that makes him such an interesting character is that, like, I don't know, it's kind of like the Hulk as well. I have that sense that they're not funny, but they bring a lot of comedic elements just by being who they're supposed to be. And I feel like Terry Crews's energy level would just kind of, I don't know, dilute that fact and just make it overly forced. I love him, but I don't see that. And can we talk about Black Panther? I cannot believe a film has not been made about this amazing character yet.
I think they're working on it. Like, they have hinted, because they've mentioned his country.
Yeah.
In one of the, I think they've foreshadowed. I do think it's one of the ones we're going to see in Phase 3.
The unspecified.
Yeah, I think that's one of the ones. They've just simply
better
have
be.
to.
It's ridiculous.
You know, my favorite Terry Crews story, I was interviewing him and Randy Couture. For those of you who don't know who Randy Couture is, he's in Expendables with all the guys, and he's the former UFC heavyweight champion. He became heavyweight champion at 40 or 43, stayed heavyweight champion for a couple of years, beating up all these young guys. But he's not, compared to Terry Crews. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Compared to me, he's a big guy. Compared to Terry Crews, nothing. So I walked in, I sat down with Terry Crews and the champ, as I call him, and we were talking, and I said to Terry, it's like, you know, you're with one of the toughest men in the world, with Randy Couture. I said, you're on this movie, but you're such a big physical guy, and Arnold's there, and you got Stallone's there, and Jason Statham is known as a badass. I mean, all big, massive guys, and Randy's kind of a small, little guy. I said, what was that like for you guys, knowing that he's one of the toughest guys in the world? He goes, and Terry Crews goes, look, I'm going to tell you something. And he's Randy goes, one of the first days, he goes, I'm not going to do it in the Terry Crews voice because I can never do it justice.
Please do. Come on.
he goes, look, one of the first days we decided we're going to wrestle around with him a little bit, with Randy Couture. He goes, in 3 seconds, I was up against a wall with my arm in this weird position, and Randy just whispers in my ear, in 3 seconds, I'm going to turn your wrist 1 more degree, and it's going to snap in 3 places. and then after that, Terry Crews is like, and every day on set after that is, hello, Mr. Couture, what would you like today, Mr. Couture? Right? But the way he tells the story, he's so engaging, so funny. I love him. All right, what else we got?
Terry Crews is like that way day in and day out. I worked really closely with him on a film, and he's always in that good of a mood, but he can play the serious, tough guy roles and be a great superhero. If you watch Middlemen, you'll see that. So go watch it, because he's not that goofy all the time, but he can be. Andy B writes, hey guys, was wondering if you can shed some light on what's happening with the Mortal Kombat film that is coming, following the release of Mortal Kombat Legacy Season 2. I have heard they are doing a 3rd season and was wondering when we should be expecting it on the big screen. Thanks for answering. You guys rule.
Dennis, what's going on with Mortal Kombat?
I read an interview with the director, Kevin, I'm going to butcher his last name, Tentera. He's actually the brother of Marissa Takaran, who is considered the Asian Whedon. She's married to Joss Whedon's brother.
Okay,
and they're working on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. right now.
The Asian Whedon.
Yeah, she calls herself that. Because it's like she works with her brother, Joss, and all the other Whedons, and then her.
Great title.
Yes.
I love that. That's great.
But that's her brother, who directed. He's directed a few movies, and he directed the Mortal Kombat web series. And he was talking about, that they're still working on the movie, but they're going to do the 3rd season of the web series. But he also talked about a television series as well. But he did say that he wanted to keep them separate. Like, he wanted to say, okay, the web series is the web series. Nothing in the web series will affect the television show. And then on the television show, that's going to stand alone as well and not affect anything on the movie side. But there's still no confirmed date or anything like that. I still think that it's, from the studio side, they're still taking a wait and see. They're saying they're doing it, but I think there's no green light yet. So I'm still a little skeptical as to whether a movie's going to be made or not.
See, that first Mortal Kombat movie is one of my guilty pleasures.
Oh, I like that movie too.
And the soundtrack. I remember I bought the soundtrack. Seriously, if you can still get it on iTunes, go get the soundtrack for the original Mortal. It's pretty great. I love it. But You know, they've been talking ever since the web series started, even before the web series started, when they were developing the web series, there was a lot of talk about, yeah, we think within the year we're going to do this with the movie, and we're going to we already got a script kind of drafted, blah, blah, and then nothing. And I think at this point, I don't think we're going to see a Mortal Kombat film. I mean, I think it'd be pretty cool to reboot it. I'd be curious to see it. I just don't think it's going to happen. I hope I'm wrong. Amy Rose?
I don't think it's necessary. Again, like, yeah, sure, the first film was fun in its cheesiness.
Yeah.
And I will be the first to say that I am a fighting game junkie. Like, I could bring it in Marvel vs. Capcom, Street Fighter, like, I will crush you, basically. But for the films, like, all of them, Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, sure, it's fun, but like, it didn't bring the games that I grew up with to life the way I wanted still. So I don't really care if this is going to continue or not, to be honest. But, you know, with the web series, I think that if there was ever a time that they might reboot it, it would be now. But it's probably not very high up on the pipeline.
Although one of the strangest casting choices I've ever seen in any movie was Christopher Lambert as Lord Raiden.
That was awesome.
I'm like, wait, who's playing Raiden?
Highlander.
The Highlander's playing Raiden?
It was awesome.
Pretty awesome.
It was
I'm not
so
gonna lie.
delicious in its cheesiness. All right, what's our last question today?
Jeffrey Dempster writes, "Hey guys, I want to thank you for your show. I love it. Do you think it's important for the actors who play these superheroes to believe at least somewhat in the morals that these superheroes stand for? I've been a huge fan of Smallville and Superman for a long time now. Smallville was a big deal for me and influenced me to see the world differently. But I'd like to believe that the actors involved in these films are aspiring for themselves and the fans. It also makes it a better experience for me besides the acting. I feel they have a responsibility to the fans and themselves to fall on these morals and values. I feel these characters have put on a life of their own, and it should be something the world should aspire to. How do you guys feel about this?"
Thanks a lot for the question, Jeffrey. I have to disagree with you. Unfortunately, I do. I mean, I really do appreciate and love the sentiment behind what it is you're saying. But realistically, I'm not looking for anything in the actors other than what they bring to the screen and the stories that they get told there. And I don't attach any importance to how much I like that movie with what's that actor's character like when he's off screen. You know, there's this great comment I heard once, and it's true. Basically, we're all jerks. I mean, really, when it comes down to it. And I love this comment. But here's the thing. If you knew everything about me, you wouldn't watch me talk every day. And if I knew everything about you, I wouldn't talk to you. So, I mean, I think underneath, we're all kind of jerks in our own way and sometimes and in some ways. But I really don't see wanting to attach... I mean, I don't care if Tom Welling is a jerk off screen. And I've heard some stories. I've heard some stories about him being kind of mean sometimes. I've heard some stories about how amazing he is at the same time. To me, it doesn't matter. What matters to me is I like Smallville, the show. And whatever stories I hear about Tom Welling off it aren't going to change my enjoyment or what I get out of watching the show or out of whatever movie he ends up appearing in, if he ever appears in more movies. And I hope he does. So I don't really think, look, I've said for a long time, I think the greatest actor on the planet is Russell Crowe. I think nobody else has as much diversity and power as he does. But that being said, I've also heard he's a bit of a jerk. But I don't care. That doesn't affect my appreciation any more than if I hear that, you know, a certain football player is a bit of a jerk. It won't change how much I cheer when he catches that pass in the end zone for a touchdown. So to me, I don't think it should matter. I recognize that it does matter to you, and that's cool. I'm just saying for me, not so much. Dennis, what about you? Do you see any connection there?
I mean, I think there's a little bit, but I don't think it's high up there in terms of importance when you cast an actor, whether or not he believes the same things, because that's their job. They're acting. I mean, Daniel Day-Lewis doesn't know anything about being an assassinated 1800s president, you know, but he seemed to be able to channel that perfectly fine. Yeah. So, I think it's...
I hear he does believe in slavery.
Oh, okay.
So it's a real stretch for him.
Exactly.
Yes.
So I don't think it's that important. I think it probably helps the actor if they do believe whatever their character believes, so it's easier for them to do their job, but it's not a necessity.
Amy Rose?
First of all, I'm pretty sure you would still want to talk to me and like me in real life. I'm pretty genuine.
No, you wouldn't.
All right.
I do
yes,
know
you
her.
would.
I know
you
you
would.
wouldn't.
You totally would. So back to the question. First of all, Jeffrey, you're adorable. I don't see that at all. I think for an actor to really master a character, they have to understand the character, but they don't need to relate to them. I mean, sure, you're using superheroes as the example, but what about The Hobbit? Do you think Benedict Cumberbatch knows what it's like to be a dragon? I mean, I don't really see the relationship there, other than Tony Stark, who is Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah,
I mean,
much,
that's him.
yeah.
But other than that, I feel like they just do the best to present these characters in a genuine light that will please fanboys, fangirls, and bring in a whole other people and do the properties justice. I mean, that's their responsibility. But they are acting. And, Michael Fassbender, you think he's really a slave driver, 12 years? I mean, you can use
Does
every
he
single...
believe in
Does
the
he
slave
believe in
driving?
it? No, they're pulling from deep. That's what makes an incredible performance when it's so far from the norm. And, I think we all do a really good job at separating, real life politics from an actor. I can appreciate a performance even if they're not the nicest person in real life, but that would, taint my perception of who they are as a human. But as an actor, they can still be really talented. So I always really do separate that talent from that. But no, I mean, that'd be really cute if Chris Hemsworth thought he was really Thor and really believed in what Thor stood for. But I just think that a good performance and doing the property justice is the most we can hope for.
Now, I also want to make sure I draw a line here. There are extremes, right? Of course there are extremes. I wouldn't be interested in watching, theoretically speaking, I wouldn't be interested in watching a movie with a guy who beats women. I wouldn't be interested in watching a movie with a guy who I know does that off screen. Not interested. I'm not interested in a guy who I know killed somebody. I'm not interested in watching a movie with that person. So there are extreme examples, but now we're going way to an extreme.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, what the person's like off camera is unless I got to hang out with them next Tuesday at a poker night, I don't care. Well, listen, folks, we have run. I'm not going to be able to take any questions from the chat board today because we're already 5 minutes over time. So I'm sorry that we've gone over time. Thank you so much for joining us today. I want to thank, as always, first of all, the people joining me at the table today. Sitting to my immediate right, the production manager of AMC Movie News, Mr. Dennis Zen. Dennis, where can people find you online?
You guys can find me on Twitter at ThinkHero and Facebook, just my name.
The editor of Movie News over here at AMC Movie News, Miss Amy Rose Eisenbach. Amy Rose, where can people find you online?
On Twitter at Amy Rosie. Thank you so much.
And the girl who makes the whole show run, the lovely Miss Chris Lee Kennedy. Chris Lee, where can people find you?
You guys can find me on Twitter at Chris Lee. And Jeffrey, I'm with you. We should all try to be superheroes.
And my name is John Campia. You can find me on any of the social networks, just at John Campia. Thank you so much for finding us today, folks, and joining us and going through the show with us. Listen, go on out and see a movie tonight. Head on over to www.amctheaters.com for your theater, showtime, and movie ticket information. A lot of great films playing at AMC Theaters right now. Thanks a lot for joining us, and until next time, my name's John Campia.
If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to AMC Movie News on YouTube. It's free and a great way to stay updated with all the latest movie news and check out our daily show, AMC Movie Talk. Also, don't forget to check us out on Facebook and Twitter to stay in the loop for our special prizes, giveaways, and contests.